Hi, Elle here with pressure-free.com, ElleIngalls.com, and welcome to Living Pressure Free with Elle. This is a little show that I do. I used to do it daily. I'll try to pick it up more because I've had some people say, I miss you. So I'm going to do a series this week on myths about stress. These myths may be holding you back, holding you down, keeping you stuck, and you may not even know it. So I want to debunk a few things about stress that are in the vernacular. You will read things online. You will, read them in textbooks. And I just really want to dig in here because fight or flight, the stress response, is my expertise. And I have some very clear things to share with you that debunk some of these myths. So one of the things my clients will ask me, they'll say, is stress, is anxiety, depression, is it genetic? Because my father was stressed, or my mother had anxiety, or my grandfather was depressed. So does it run in families? And in all of the research that I have dug into, there are some precursors, but the main reason why we pass on from generation to generation anxiety and depression is because we imitate. So you started triggering the stress response before you were even born. If you were in a home and or your mom, you're in your mother, she starts reacting to stressors and triggering the stress response, you were triggering the stress response as well. And I learned something wonderful from Dr. Gay Hendricks. He shared that when you're inside your mother, you make a 6-second cycle with your spine. What that cycle is doing is bringing fluid into your lungs and then expelling it in preparation for your lungs to develop. And so this little 6-session cycle with your spine, thank you, Amy, for that, love. This little I have to say it right? 6-second cycle with your spine is what's preparing your lungs. Now, if your mother has a stress event, if she triggers the stress response, you're going to freeze. You're not going to move. You're not going to do that 6-second cycle until you feel the stressor is gone, until you, as the little tiny baby inside there, feel like it's okay to resume the cycle with your spine, teaching you to breathe again, developing those lungs. If your mother was a chain smoker, always smoking or doing any sort of drug that would, again, cause the stress hormones to release, or you, as the infant in there, you will freeze again. So that's why a lot of babies whose mothers didn't take very good care of themselves or were under a lot of stress have a lot of underdeveloped things going on in their being, including the lungs, which are so critical for our ability to breathe and get oxygen and get blood flow and oxygen to our brain. And then that stems all kinds of things that can go wrong with a baby before it's even born. So this 6-second cycle, again, is preparing you to breathe. And then when you're out, you're breathing. Then you're out in the world and you're imitating. Now, if you had a mother or a father who had postpartum depression or some anger issues, then what face are you seeing as an infant every day? Or if your parents needed to bring you to a daycare to be cared for, how often can the daycare worker actually smile into your face? Probably not as much as you need. So many babies in the past 50 years just haven't been smiled to enough. You need smiling faces to understand how to get these muscles to move. And I see it so often when I go to preschools, when I go to kindergartens. I've worked in one school, I worked with 1st and 2nd graders. And you can see on their faces if they got smiled to enough. It's honestly so sad to me to see how little smiling is going on in our country, and especially for children. And now we can't see the face. This is important. So if you're masked a lot, please make sure in your own home that you take off your masks and you see that smile a lot. Because that develops the flow of dopamine, which develops the whole outer cortex, which allows your cognitive functioning to happen and for your brain to develop. If you're not smiling enough, your brain is actually underdeveloping. So you're imitating. Then you get to school and situations where you have coaches, teachers, people you look up to, and peers, and you start imitating them. So anxiety and depression, in fact, when I was working at this one school, a 6th grader raised her hand. I was working with 5th and 6th graders. And she goes, Mrs. Ingalls, some girls are faking anxiety to get attention. Wow. So now we're going to fake being anxious to get attention? And is that because we're not getting attention just because we're being ourselves and we're being happy? This is really interesting. And that this girl was brave enough to bring it forward and actually share it. So a myth about stress is this myth that it's genetic. It's not the case. You imitate it and you can break it. Think of all the other things that you've broken that your parents did that you don't do. Stress and anxiety, depression is the same thing. But you need to understand the stress response. This is what we teach you at Pressure Free. You need to understand how your body works in fight or flight, what the mechanisms really are, so that you can break the stress cycle. And once you break that stress cycle, the sky is the limit, because you get to choose your response to things. You've been reacting a certain way because you imitated it for years, and then it became your own deal, and you kept imitating, reinforcing it, so that whenever this particular trigger came, that's your response. If I saw dirty socks in the living room, that was my response. Maybe because when I was a little girl, I left my dirty socks out and I got scolded. And so it became a thing for me. Do you see how this happens? And watch for peer influences too, because peers can influence, especially children so much, but even adults. We are very strongly influenced, and we take on attitudes and tightnesses, anxieties. It's really interesting how we can do that. If you watch the evening news and you trigger because of that, and you have a habit of triggering because of that, so we need to identify your triggers, break the stress cycle, and get out of it so that your mind can fully function, your body can fully function, and all your organs get the nutrients they need so that you can flourish. So let go of that myth. Just let go of it and start to open up the possibility that maybe you've been anxious for your whole life. I know I had anxieties that I didn't even recognize because I thought I was a pretty cool chick, actually. I didn't think I got very hot, but I get annoyed at a lot of things. So take a look and understand that. And when you start to see yourself going into a story that, well, I'm just anxious because my mom was, or my dad was, or my grandpa, whoever it was, I want you to just open up the possibility. Just stay open for a moment that something could change for you, that something could open up for you, and you could release the habits of reactions that are locking you in anxiety or locking you in your depression. So we use these words, but all these words are words to describe certain symptoms, okay? And then in the big psychology compendium, we take those symptoms and we either put a drug or cognitive therapy or something to them. But we're going to unwind all of that in Pressure Free and get to the actual biology behind your psychology. So I hope this is helpful. Let go of your parents and grandparents and their anxieties and the things that they may have passed on to you. It's time for you to step into your true potential, and time for you to really understand what's happening in you so that you can break your own cycles. You can understand that. I promise you it's not hard. I'm a really patient and gentle coach, and we can find the way for you. So I hope you have a great, beautiful, pressure-free rest of your day. And I'm going to continue this series. We'll break another myth. We'll share another myth tomorrow and show you, how you can start to break the stress cycle. So have a great pressure-free day. Bye.